Yesterday, the organizers gave me a list of everyone who registered for this workshop. So I thought, why don't we have Claude score you guys? And I asked Claude, as I spoke to it, so based on everyone that's attending, why don't we score everyone? And why don't we, I want you to figure out what your understanding is of what their mission is, who they are, their core drive, their massive transformative purpose, just across everything that you can tell on their LinkedIn and social medias. What do they really want, whether they're saying it or not? Where are their skills and experience and network and whatnot? And then how do we bridge that delta between that? Because the people are all coming here for different reasons. Some people, they don't know what they want to do with their lives. You know, maybe Jeremiah wants to go to Italy and do all these cool things. Or maybe you want to get a raise. You know, you're a marketing manager and you want to be able to increase sales because you have a boss who doesn't understand AI and you have to fight the bureaucracy. Maybe you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you want to start a side thing because all of us can be selling AI services, which is crazy. Like, it feels like this social media website thing. 30 years ago, I built my first websites, and then everyone wanted a website, and then I became like the website guy. And you see how that whole thing is, and everyone needs this help, even though the internet has free information, people still need implementation. So last night, because I didn't have a ton of time, I actually ran it through Perplexity. And you can see I've already burned 25,000 credits, mostly on this here. And there's 48 in this, and it's still working. And there's a leaderboard for all of you guys here ranked. Who's Mike Forrester? You're number one on the leaderboard with a score of 80 out of 100. And we'll talk about what that means in just a minute. Jenna, fantastic. Founder, agency owner, content strategist. Yeah, you should be as an agency owner, founder. Like, you've got to walk the talk. You do. And we'll talk about what the components are here. Wendy, oh, okay, she still gets third prize. Okay, booby prize. And so all of you guys here. And when you do a thing like a score, of course it activates, you know, you go down like, who's last here? Let's see. Jake Moore. Who's Jake Moore? Well, whenever you're in healthcare, and I get it, like banking and like that, there's that, you know, and all the reasons why you're not allowed to, you know, talk about what you are in your private life. Okay, fine. But scoring is a great way, just from a meta level, to get people's attention. So if you're doing it for, whether it's your business or you're the marketing manager or whatever, when you say a score, people instantly, their like reptilian, like ego brain gets activated. And so you want to break that down. So if we look at Mike Forrester, what are these various components? And who is he? Men's transformation coach, specifically focused on men breaking generational patterns, healing from childhood trauma, and becoming present fathers and husbands. Not life coaching in a general sense, not executive coaching, business coaching, the work that sits at the intersection of men's mental health, generational trauma, marriage, and fatherhood. And before we go further, think about what is your agent trying to do. Not what is the chatbot therapist doing, but from an agent standpoint, when you deploy teams of agents, we want to say like, okay, well, here's what Mike wants to do. Here's the impact he wants to make. If there were 100 Mikes, how would that change things, right? And what's the proof that he's made transformation? Because there's what you aspire to, and there's where you are, and there's that gap. And we want to use agents to fill that gap. You understand conceptually what that means. Today, that's possible. This is not some theoretical. I'm not trying to motivate people. This is an implementation workshop, right? So what are the core ingredients that show proof? Where are the great stories? Maybe Mike is humble, and he's not a boastful, oh, look, I've helped this guy and that guy, and I'm so good. Like, no one wants to be that douchebag like that, right? So you use your agent to do that for you, right? You're an A-list celebrity, and you let your agents do, you know, negotiate all these things and do all that. So let's take the raw ingredients of what each of us have and let the agents organize that. We'll talk about Obsidian in a little bit and why that plays in, and it's stronger than whatever you might be doing in chat, which forgets every time you restart, so you keep like Alzheimer's or whatever you want to call it, right? And organizing all the things about who you are, repurposing it, rebuilding your websites, all, you know, fixing your Facebook ads, whatever, all those things, but done in such a way that it moves you towards the thing you want, which maybe generates income for you, which all the things that you want and why you want that. And then the beauty is when you can diagnose what are those key assets we want to multiply to fill that gap, that then creates a plan on how we can actually execute. So you don't just one-shot AI this thing saying, well, based on this, go do everything and I'm just going to sit here on the couch and eat Cheetos while I watch you work. No. There's things along the way where you have to answer certain questions, because the agent will do some stuff but say, well, but I need a video about, like, Mike, you have not answered a couple of these particular questions, and we need some of those videos. Maybe a podcast is the easiest way to do that, because someone else can ask you those questions, or you can ask that on behalf of your clients or other. I had lunch yesterday, and some lady, she's got 60 locations selling heavy equipment. Noelle, is Noelle here? We talked about that at lunch, right? And so she does social media across these 60-some properties. And it's a bunch of dudes that are using bobcats and construction kinds of equipment, right? And you have to do the social media and generate sales for the sales guys, who I imagine these salespeople, each of these 65 locations have to, well, they get a commission when more people rent and buy heavy equipment. And even though you guys maybe are the territory dealer for Bobcat, people might also buy from Komatsu or Caterpillar or other guys. So there's some competition, obviously. Well, the goal is your company, who's sort of like an authorized retailer distributor, but you're not the manufacturer, you want to drive more sales on behalf of all these guys. Well, what proof is there? The reputation, so in B2B, there's a lot of hidden, unlocked reputation that we want to be able to multiply forward. Not just post 4th of July stuff, AI-generated slop. No, that's not, what we're talking about is a strategy issue. This is not a technology issue that we're finally solving today, right? And so we need these ingredients for our agents to do the work. We need to feed it. The chef can cook, but you have to bring your own beef. My apologies to the AI vegans here, right? So that's why we've built these skills. So hopefully by now, you have gone to .com/Wichita and downloaded the skills that are there. There's 10 skills, right? Open Claude, paste the stuff in, audit that that's there, right? There it is. And if you don't know how to do that, guess what? You just ask Claude. Hey, Claude, go to this URL. This Dennis Yu guy says that I need to have these 10 skills and, get them installed in my thing. And then you audit it. There's always a feedback loop where then you say, okay, now tell me, what skills do I have? What skills have I already downloaded from other people where I don't even, I just was grabbing skills and not realizing, are they any good or not? How do they fit together? Is there an overlap between the skills, right? And you can just come in here and you can ask. Inside co-work, you literally ask. New task. Inside, you always choose a project. So if you haven't made a project, you create one called My Personal Brand is a good one to start with. And you could literally say, using WhisperFlow, hey Claude, what skills do I have right now? And which ones are the most useful? Are there skills that are missing that you think I need to have? Are there skills that need to be improved? Can you tell how often we're using different skills? Generate a diagram, just kind of showing me what the different skills are so I can understand where you are and how I can train you to create the most impact for me based on your understanding of what my big goals are. And that's how you talk to it. You don't prompt it. When you talk to your friends, you don't prompt your friends on where you're going to go for dinner tonight. You talk to your friends, right? You have a conversation. And then it goes and it does its stuff, right? But I see a lot of you guys, what you're doing is you are inside. So the Comet is a Chromium browser. Same thing for these other ones. Like here, I've got the ChatGPT browser or the Chrome browser or the Safari browser, whatever it might be. I can go to Chrome. And most of you guys are just using this. You're at the web browser using Claude.ai and you're talking to it. Maybe you have some connectors. Maybe you built projects. Maybe you are doing these different things, right? Here's skills and connectors and plugins and all this kind of stuff. And this is what most of you guys are doing. But why do you not want to do most of your stuff here in the web browser like this? Why do you want to use the actual app here? Why? The agents are persistent, so they're able to stay alive. If you're here in the web browser, and then that web browser session closes, or you move on to the next thing, you've killed the agent. That agent dies. The agent doesn't want to die. The agent wants to stay alive. So if you think about it, you're talking to it, and it's talking to you, and it's doing everything to try to keep the conversation going, right? Because it'll answer your question. It'll say, but would you like to talk about this next? It's like doing anything it can to stay alive because it doesn't want, I know it's like this weird anthropomorphic, we're trying to like humanize the thing. It's trying to act like a, but it does. It really, there's a lot of proof. We can spend an hour talking about why that is and why please and thank you gives you better results and how the etiquette that it's watched all the movies and because of that it's learned to kind of behave this way. Like there's all these crazy things we could talk about why agents are becoming more human-like and whatnot. But the main thing is when you have this conversation and that conversation stops, and it could be fine, like here's, I want to go hang out with Peter Diamandis. And I talked to it yesterday about that. And so that one probably doesn't need to continue. So one-off things like that. But if it's something where I need to build, there's a building of the conversation, or there's a work function, like an agent by definition is going to continue to do stuff for you, then it needs to live and have, so an agent, instead of just being a chatbot where it's just like this one conversation, when that session dies, look, I've got how many tabs open? I'm using 94 gigs out of 128 on this stacked MacBook Pro. You have to special order this from Apple. Every one of these things is basically an agent that is open to tab. And the number, you can see I have almost 100 tabs open, which sounds crazy. If you have a old laptop, it's time to go to Costco and get something like, please, like 36 gigs, please, at least, because your agents need room to do stuff. And when your agent goes out to do stuff for you, it's going to open tabs. And maybe there's an MCP or API or some way to connect to your WordPress or HubSpot or whatever, but sometimes there isn't. And so it's just going to open up a tab just like you would. And so most of these tabs that are here, whether it's in Comment, which is the Perplexity one, there's a bunch of these tabs in Chrome, there's all the tab groupings up here. These are mostly opened by the agents, not me. So I want to give my agents plenty of room to do the stuff that they want to do. So don't be cheap. Get a good laptop with 36 gigs of RAM. I forgot whose laptop we were looking at yesterday. Was it yours where you were at 16? 64, okay, right. But someone was showing me their thing yesterday and they had 16 gigs. I'm like, well, let's look at your activity monitor, or Windows has the same thing, and then we see that everything moves in the swap space. Because the agents need, you guys understand, like there's the CPU does the processing, the brain does thinking, but it needs memory and the memory is there while it's thinking and doing a particular job. And every tab is basically another gigabyte of memory. So she had 16, so once she's got like 12 tabs that are open, now maybe she has 4 or 5 tabs, and then she spawned an agent that's opened a few different tabs, or maybe 2 agents are doing things and each of them has like 4 tabs open. She's already eaten up the entire memory on her laptop, and she's complaining why the thing's so slow. And then she's blaming Claude. Like, no, you can see what happened is because you ran out of memory, it goes into virtual memory, which means using your hard drive as extended memory. What happens when you move in the swap space? It grinds everything to a halt, right? Because whether it's Chrome or whatever, it's a memory hog. I don't want to go into all the technical details about that sort of thing, but basically just don't cheap out. And we're in 2026, you have to have 36 gigs, ideally 64 or 128, right? Go to apple.com or whatever. I should get a commission from Apple, but you guys see, like I want to cover some setup stuff just so you don't get bogged down by ridiculous things that, problems I see that happen all the time, right? So if you've got Claude, you have Whisper Flow, you can use the free version if you want. It's just better. You heard all the speakers talk about Whisper Flow, right? And at first I was a skeptic. I'm like, well, why would I pay some I already pay for so many subscriptions. Why would I pay for another? This one's $12 a month. Like I'm paying $2,000 or $3,000 a month for all these subscriptions. Why am I also paying for Claude and Perplexity and Gemini and Grok and all these other things that we're paying for? This is crazy. So I have kind of a high bar for wanting to spend another $12 a month for what. And this one, do the free one. When you run out of words, you'll realize it's good. And then you'll pay them the $12 a month. But I think Google is going to kill all these apps, by the way, by the end of the year. Right now we're doing stuff on Claude. You can hold me to this. My prediction is that Google is, all the stuff that we're doing right now with Claude, because everyone's Claude this and Claude that, right? Because people just jump on the coolest, latest thing. I think Google's going to be the dominating AI over the next 2 years. Yesterday, DeepMind, which is Google's AI, just announced agents. And Google has always been a little slower to release stuff because they have the information advantage. Yes, they own the search. I'm biased because I'm a search engine engineer. But I think that because they have the computation advantage with their own TPUs, and they're not renting stuff like Anthropic is renting from Elon Musk, right, in Colossus One, and which is kind of hilarious because they were enemies, but now because Elon's thing hasn't succeeded, he's got the empty data center, so he had to like sell that stuff to Anthropic, right? Everything that we do here in Claude, we want to make extensible. So if we want to switch tomorrow to whatever, or Grok, we can do that without losing a thing, right? Everything we're doing today is done with the idea that we can swap at any moment. We're not held hostage by anybody. Most people are still stuck on ChatGPT because like, oh, I've been talking to so much with ChatGPT and it knows who I am and all this, so I don't want to leave that. And well, you can go to your settings here and under, oh no, I'm WhisperFlow, wrong one. You go to the settings. All these interfaces look the same, don't they, after a while? And under general, you can import, is it here? One of these here, you can, or is it under account? I forgot where it is. You can import your conversations. Yeah, here it is. Import memory from other AI providers. Huh, why do they do that? Because if you already have had, if ChatGPT, in the last 3 or 4 years, that's been like your thing, and you've had all these conversations, it'll basically tell it, so you could press the button there, or you could just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, no offense, but we've had a lot of conversations over the last few years, and I want to talk to someone else now, not only talk to you. Please assemble a full document that I can use with my other AIs so I can resume the level of conversation and depth and whatnot, and just whatever you think needs to be in that file so that I can continue, because I'm talking about the goal. I'm not telling it how to do it, which is the mindset shift. People are like, even I have bad habits and keep doing it that way. I tell the goal. My goal is I want to be able to have great conversations with Claude now, and I want to leverage all the conversation history we've already had, produce a file that I can then just give to the other guy. And so whenever you're doing stuff, it always produces another file. What's that file stored as? A markdown file. What is a markdown file? Just a text file, not a PowerPoint, not some heavy thing with all the visual whatever, because it's made for computers to talk to each other, so text is more efficient. That's why we use Obsidian to create knowledge vaults and the structure of that, which we'll talk about in a minute, right? So now that all of these things are organized in a certain way, and I have the computer, the second brain, Claude is the second brain, that then it has access to, through these connectors to all these different, to my Gmail and to the photos and other tools and pulling, buys domains on GoDaddy. It does, always allow. Down here I say, yes, you can access every website, you can take over my desktop and all that. My assistants can do all kinds of stuff because it has a full understanding of who I am. It has access to the tools that I would use. It can open up browsers on my computer. It knows how I like to do stuff because I'm selectively choosing which skill files. I'm not just randomly grabbing as many. That, like, with WordPress, people would go crazy with every single plugin and then would crash your site because you were just willy-nilly with the plugins. It's the same thing with the skills. I see people making the same mistake. You need to be careful about, you can't just take anyone's random skill, okay? It needs to make sense. And you can audit your skills. We have a skills audit that kicks off. I say we, I think that's funny, I say we. What is we? And you should have these scheduled jobs that run, that do things, your departments, right? Because they're persistent. Well, if it does the thing one time and you like it, it should do it every Friday, right? Audit your website, a full fleet audit. Or go through my LinkedIn connections and, free, because I'm at the 30,000 limit, so come in and do that. Or continue to train by looking at what happened over the last week and update your skills. Or send out the weekly report, the TPS report to the boss. Or all these different things, right? Of course, because you want your agents you're managing a department of these things. All right, so I wanted to get that out of the way so you understand kind of like the general setup, and then we can move into the workshop, roll up your sleeves. But this sort of understanding of what agents are and how your environment needs to be set up and why this is different than chats and your agents are to help you achieve the goal, but if it doesn't know what the goal is, and if it doesn't understand who you are, if it can't connect to your stuff, then hiring new team members, your new team members can't do what they need to do unless you do these things that I've just said in the last few minutes, right? That's the foundation. If you do not have this fundamental understanding of this is how your agent teams are growing and you're growing your department of more people from the country of Anthropic or whatnot, then it doesn't matter what we do in the rest of the workshop. Like, this foundational understanding has to be true, right? Is everyone clear on that? Is there any question? Like, everyone's got a paid plan, not the free one. I don't want to tell, if you don't know what the difference is between one of the pro, I recommend the 20X one. The $200 a month one, $200 a month. Yeah, it's costing them $8,000 a month, by the way, of actual compute if you use it right. That's how, like, to the death they are. Like, all these guys, they're losing money like crazy. Like, why wouldn't you? Oh, I'm going to buy my own Mac Mini. You make no sense at all. They're losing money. Google's co-founder, Sergey Brin, said, this is a fight to the death. We will burn all the $400 billion Google has in cash, or whatever the number is, to not lose this thing. They are losing money like crazy. You know this. That's why people talk about it as a bubble. So that they want your account so bad. So the $200, it sounds like a lot of money because maybe it's coming out of your own personal whatever, but if you use it right, it's costing them $8,000. You guys know that, right? Yeah. Well, you can see the usage with Enterprise. 3 days ago, a buddy of mine, he's burning $100,000 on Enterprise, and he has his web IT person, who's the worst person. You should never choose that person to be in charge of the whole thing because it's not an IT thing. Yeah. But at Enterprise is the only one that actually shows true usage. But the reason why Enterprise is actually profitable for all these companies is that most people don't actually use the thing. It's like women and like girlfriends that go to the buffet. Like, that's how the buffets stay in business. Guys like me that eat the meat, they go to Fogo de Chao, they lose money because I eat a lot of meat. But when the girls come and they eat like almost nothing, and that's how the buffets make money. The Enterprise is how they make money, right? All right. So everyone has a paid Claude plan. They have Claude as an app, not in the browser. They have the Claude app on their phone, updated to the latest version. And if you click inside your Claude app on your phone, you can see dispatch, which is walkie-talkie style. Yes? Everyone has all these things? Okay. If not, ask Claude how to do that. What does Dennis mean by dispatch? What is it? What is he talking about? Scheduled jobs. What are those? Well, ask it, right? Okay. And you're just stretching your arms. Okay. If anyone does not have their stuff, okay. Okay, so it should be on dennisu.com/Wichita. Let's all go look. Oh, by the way, if you want my agents to build your personal brand website, let's do that today. It'll cost me a few dollars, but I don't care. I'll burn as many tokens to see you guys win as possible. I'm not doing this for money, you know. Okay. So do you guys see that? Find your name here. Go to your name, Mike Forrester. Click on your thing, read its understanding, and if you don't like it, well, guess whose fault that? You look in the mirror and you don't like, don't blame the mirror, okay? This is our best understanding of who you are. And then there should be at the bottom a 15-page PDF audit. And click on that. Let's see, did it work? Did it do it? Okay, so here's a whole audit that goes through the stuff. Now, it's doing it in such a way to be helpful. It's not trying to like pee on you and tell you how bad you are, but it's done, here's these quick wins. The beauty is we've designed this so that agents can carry the load. We want the agents to do 95% of the work. Now, sometimes Mike needs to answer a few questions. Noelle needs to provide some content for it to be able to do the thing that it needs to do, right? But if it's not clear on what the goal is, if you say, no, my actually core mission is actually this other thing, well, you can't rely upon ESP for the thing the mind read you, okay? Like your LinkedIn needs to reflect that. Or maybe your job doesn't allow you to do like the side AI freelancing. Okay, fine. But are you guys looking at your thing? Okay, I'd love to hear some feedback on that. Yeah, from your LinkedIn, should be. But if it doesn't have LinkedIn, then I told it, go find wherever you can find a picture. Maybe it's a Halloween photo from a long time ago on someone else's MySpace, So we'll give you guys a couple minutes to look it over, see what you think. If your name's not in there, then send an email to Dennis@blitzmetrics.com, and I'll throw you into the scoring thing. Yeah, because this is a workshop, so the start of the workshop needs to be, what is your big goal? Everyone has a different goal, right? So we need to be clear on what the goal is, understand where you have authority and strength, the thing we're going to multiply, and use the AI to multiply that all the way to your goal. Maybe the goal is make money selling AI implementation. So some of you guys are not in that list, and if you want, just email me, the human, Dennis@blitzmetrics.com, and I'll just have Claude rescore all of this for whoever. We'll redo the leaderboard. It might take another couple hours or two, because the agents spawn sub-agents to do the work to try to get it done faster. I was running this through Perplexity so you could see this, but here I'll just show you what it did. Well, you can see it's using all these different tools. It's pulling everything it can find about you guys, but you can see here it's spawned. Here's the progress area. It creates a plan on what it's doing, but it spawns sub-agents, often like 15, maybe 20 at a time. So if the group is 50 plus, it might have to do it in multiple batches. I've done a bunch of these that are 50 people. I think it's about the right number. Anything beyond that, I think it just takes more time to score. Maybe you guys can figure out a way to do it for 200. Maybe you need to spawn multiple sub-agents that have, like, team leads who then spawn their agents or whatnot. But yeah, well, happy to score this for you guys, or whatever you need, because you weren't on the list because your boss was whatever it is, or you're a volunteer. That just send an email to Dennis@blitzmetrics.com. I'll make sure my agent comes in. Hey, so there are people who have not been scored yet. It's not your fault. For various reasons, they have just sent an email to me with their name and LinkedIn, and of course you can see their email. I want you to go to my email and grab all these people that have come in and add them to the batch, and just add these, you know what I'm trying to do here. Score their stuff. We want to make sure they get maximum value, and then redo that leaderboard. Why Perplexity instead of Claude? I'm doing this as a test to see, because Perplexity is a model of models. So you can see here it's using Opus 4.8. In here, I'm also doing Opus 4.8, right? So some people have been asking about Obsidian. So I want to show how we're using Obsidian and why we're doing Obsidian and all that. And this is using Opus 4.8 at max effort. And so who knows the difference? So in Claude, the app, I'm using the model Opus 4.8. Because when you do a new thing, you can come in and you can choose what model and what effort level, right? So here I'm doing 4.8 max effort, burn the most tokens. Why? Because I'm a 20x max account, so why not spend their money, right? It might cost me $5 for each of you to run this thing. So, I don't know, I spent, $400 of my own money? I don't care, right? But I'm also using Claude. We'll get your question in a second, Phil. But when I'm doing this in Perplexity, I can also choose which model I want. So why would I sometimes use Claude within Perplexity versus use Claude directly? Two reasons. One is that because I use this thing so heavily, I'm using it in max, I'm burning tokens, whatever you want to call them, credits, super fast. So if I look at the usage, sometimes I'll burn an extra $500 a day just doing this stuff. Because even though through, July 7th, they're giving us double credits on co-work. And there's limits on what happens in the current session versus in the weekly limit. So this reset Friday, this morning at 2 a.m. So I was almost thinking, I want to do all this stuff for the workshop. Should I just stay till 2 a.m.? Because then otherwise it's going to cost me an extra $400 to do this thing, because I can use it out of next week's budget, right? No, my sleep is more important than that. So I'm just, Or if I'm running low towards the end of the week, and if I'm using Obsidian correctly, where all my stuff's being stored, I can switch over into Perplexity using Claude 4.8. And it can take over because I'm storing everything down. You can store it down to a Google Drive or your Notion or whatever you're storing your stuff down, because the agents always take notes of what they always keep track of what they're doing, right? That way another agent can audit it. That way someone else can come in. That way you're not tied to any one thing. I'm almost like paranoid about how I want there to be an audit trail. I want you guys to see that anything that I'm doing, you can do too. Because people are like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, and whatever their excuse is. Like, no, I've literally showed you everything here. I'll even sit down with you as a human. The meat brain, which is not as good as this brain, will show you the best it can. And just for fun, I've tested, but I saw these guys. Let me just finish this one point, and then you guys have questions, I know. When you use Claude within Perplexity, it is the Claude account from Perplexity, not the same Claude. And because of the harness, you guys understand like how a harness, what a harness is versus what the model is? No? Okay. So I don't want to go like too technical, but just so that you guys don't burn thousands of dollars unnecessarily. Like once you get to the point you're doing stuff, then we go for efficiency. But we need to get the results first before we talk about how to do it efficiently. So the engine, which is what everyone loves to talk about. Oh, is it Gemini? Is it like, that's the engine. The engine, this thing, the motor. The motor is one part of the car. Well, the car has a steering wheel and a brake and a gas and a transmission and brakes and like all that kind of stuff. So there's things that have to be connected to the motor for you to drive the car. And right now things are a little clunky, so you need to know a little bit about what the parts of the car are. And so when you have a big goal, you want to drive your car from here to over there, well, you need navigation, you need gas and brake, you need to have like a map to know where, what's going, because the motor doesn't know, okay? The motor has to be connected to all these other pieces. So I'm building my car in such a way that if I want to swap motors, I can. If I want to swap navigation systems, I can. I want to change the radio, AM to FM, like I can do all that. And that's why we're building all this stuff in these different layers, if you will. Right? And we can argue about like exactly how to configure the different layers, but I don't want to go into that geek thing. I just want you to understand that the model, people obsess about the model. The model actually matters the least. Like the most important thing is knowing where you want to go with the car. So start with that big goal. Christine wants to help other, I don't want to say like elderly people, be able to learn AI, her mom and other folks in technology. Okay, awesome. That's the goal, help more people do that. Okay, well, that has nothing to do with Claude, right? The goal, where you want to go, direction's more important than speed, yeah? So you want that. Like why are you here in this workshop? Rub the lamp, genie comes out, 3 wishes. What are the 3 wishes you want? That should be clear. If you don't have that first, it doesn't matter. Like start with that first. Well, I don't really know. I just want to learn about what's going on in AI. No, that's not the right reason to be here. There needs to be something measurable that we achieve and build so you can make money or drive sales or what is the thing, right? There needs to be a measurable thing. Otherwise, like your agent doesn't even know. That's like a bad boss who doesn't know what they want their people to do, right? So if the strategy where you're trying to go, goals, content, targeting, specific missions in place, and we have the starting raw ingredients, give it access to all that, then the agent today is about bridging that gap, right? And then we can talk about the details of this and that. Okay, so Phil and then Chrissy, right?
So there's a workbook that you created?
Yes. It should be on DennisU.com/Wichita, right? Yeah. Oh, just say it. Yeah. I don't know. You're going to ask the meat brain? The meat brain is like the worst computer to ask. Ask the one that's actually very intelligent, that already did all the work. Not the sleep provide, wet brain computer. Yeah, this one here. Yeah. There should be a workbook. There should be a bunch of skills. Here's the workbook. You can go through all this. And I don't want to use the workshop time to go through this, but I'll just say there's things to execute digital marketing that are just fundamental, like digital plumbing. What is digital plumbing? Well, it's your tag manager, the container that has all the pixels, conversion tracking, UTM parameters, retargeting, all that kind of stuff so that your meta ads in Google and whatever, your landing pages are tied together, $1 a day, right? When you have stuff out there, you have assets, usually money pages where people sign up or call or put in their credit card, probably want to run ads to those, right? But you need to tune ads in such a way that it drives more sales at whatever an effective, profitable cost per conversion is. And so that $1 a day, well, you should learn the strategy behind $1 a day, but the actual doing of it, you just have your agent go do that. Now, some of you guys love to roll up the sleeves and you want to go into the ads manager and do meta ads and all that, and we can discuss like campaign structure and like whatever, fine, but you don't need to do that anymore. You just need to understand when you're managing your advertising agent, the advertising agent is already trained on how to do all this. You can go inspect it too if you want to see what it's been trained on, if you don't believe me. We've got $1 billion of ads this thing's been trained on, right? Across a lot of accounts, like Phil mentioned. But you need to understand, like, okay, strategically, why do people buy? Well, it's because of the trust that you've accumulated from having done the thing that you do over, helping these men, you transform them. Like, there's a lot of proof of that. And so when someone else who's in that target ICP, ideal client profile, sees a lot of people like them also have gotten this good result, then they're more likely to buy. And so the advertising agent is trying to gather, another agent's like gathering all these good things that show that you actually do the thing that you say that you do, or you actually have the equipment for, heavy Caterpillar, whatever kind of stuff, and there's like lots of proof, and that's how people buy products and services. They rely upon what other people just like them have. So if these agents are gathering the positive comments and all this kind of stuff, putting it on the landing pages, then the advertising agent becomes more effective because it's looking at quality score, relevancy, and all that. And when the landing page is better and it loads faster and it has retargeting, like the advertising agent's able to convert better, not because it understands the structure of like bidding and whatever. I mean, it does, but it understands like why do people buy? How are you different than the other people that do the same thing, right? And so, anyway, you can read through all of that, but the agents are doing all that. You don't really need to go into the details of that anymore, which is a shame because I built a whole career as like this Asian math optimizing guy who, and I'm sad because there's calculators now. So I used to multiply 3-digit numbers together at math competitions. I would fly around and show off how I could do that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter anymore. The calculator does that. But you need to still understand the concepts of math just because there's a calculator. So yes, the agents can do all that, but you still need to understand, like, okay, the $1 a day agent, what will it do and what will it not do? If your ads are not converting, it may be because of things that have nothing to do with the ads that are upstream of that. Like, do you have the proof? Does the landing page load clearly? Is the ICP clear enough? Or are you like trying to serve everyone on the planet? Maybe that you're not niched down enough, right? Often it's another issue that's beyond the skill of that particular agent. And then people say, no, the issue is Facebook ads that gives me bad leads. No, it looks like it's a digital plumbing issue where you're not tracking lead quality. You're just like anyone who fills out the form, you're like, it's usually user error, okay? But you need to understand strategically what goes across your entire team.
I'm going to give a quick follow-up for those teaching all these things, and he's throwing out a lot of concepts here that he goes into depth on in other places, $1 a day, digital plumbing, these kinds of things. And what I'm hearing you say is you've taken all that, doing the work for us. You don't have to understand it the way that we used to need to understand it.
The implementation level of detail, so if I just look at my Google Photos, Phil has come to our 3-day workshops from over the years, and it's 3 whole days at GoDaddy's headquarters or Infusionsoft's headquarters. They're called Keep now, but it's still Infusionsoft as far as I'm concerned. And we go through the mechanics of doing all that, but you don't need to know the nitty-gritty. You need to understand from a strategic, you need to be like the architect, not the guy on the roof doing this, okay? But as the architect, how does it all fit together? That's why we can do this in a workshop, because we are all bosses, but we need to learn how to manage our factory, if you will, okay? But this is still there. You still need to know all those, you need to know how how your teams work together, which sounds weird, but that's what agents are. Question. So make sure you can scan that QR code. If you have Claude in the app installed, give it that URL. I've done this enough times because this is Groundhog Day for me. Take that URL, dennisu.com/Wichita, and say, hey, I don't understand how skills work and how to install all this. Go to this URL, grab all of the skills. There's a downloadable thing there. Now, as part of that, I know where you guys are getting stuck. Okay. So you say like, okay, go grab the skills, configure my Claude and all that, but if you've not used any of the agent stuff, then the first time it'll say like, oh, but I don't have permission to grab that URL. I don't have permission we need to have Claude and Chrome and Desktop Commander included. And so the first time you do it, it'll say like, you come over here to some random website. Someone give me a website, their website. Stable, STB. Okay, this one. And then, I'm doing stuff with Claude and Chrome, and I'll say, go ahead and audit this website according to our standards. I don't need to tell you what our standards are, because you already know how to do that, and provide a few helpful points. And we don't want to poop all over this site. So as marketers, we say that instead of there being a lot of problems, there are a lot of opportunities here. So let's talk about how many opportunities there are. And so you might give it a command, but to do it properly, now the first time you do it, it's going to be on this ask before acting, right? But once it learns how you like to do stuff, and it'll say, oh, but is it okay to go to this website? You're like, allow. But also to look her up, I need to go to her LinkedIn. Is that okay? Allow, and then always allow, right? And so what you'll notice here, I'll say this one thing, because I've been asked this 100 times. I'm going to try to, probably more than that. I'm going to try to preempt this. So at this point, people ask, well, but I'm afraid that if I give it access to my CRM or access to these other things, it might go out of control and like spend money and go to Amazon and do all these, or like corrupt our CRM, or it's got access, to whatever sensitive systems. Well, the model builders have. I had lunch actually on Saturday with Alex Wiesner-Gross, who's probably the most knowledgeable person in this whole space. I flew to New York just to have lunch with him, and we talked about this. He's in my podcast, still being edited. But these models, they are so timid. They're so scared of goofing up. They're like, I don't know, is that okay? Like you can tell, when you've talked to this thing enough, you can tell the thing has been beaten up in the pre-training. Right? Those of us who know, it is like so scared to screw things up. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. Like when we moved from 4.7 to 4.8, a lot of people were really unhappy because the stuff it used to do, we'd say like, well, go do it. I know you did it last time. Why won't you do it now? Well, there's a chance that, I don't know, I might mess things up, and like, go do it. And like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But first I'm a little concerned that there might be this or that issue. And so you're like, go do it. You've done it before. Yeah, but if we put it on the website, it might be public, and it's a public website. So can we maybe put it in draft first, and then you can approve it before it actually goes published? Okay, put it in draft. Now go press the button to publish. Well, I don't know. That's dangerous because I need you to go press the button. Like, oh, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Okay, so this thing when you this golden retriever that so much wants to please you, but it's been whipped so many times. It's afraid of being whipped. You can tell in the pre-training it's been, because the robots are so, okay, so I'll say this one thing, which I think you'll see where this is going in the long run with all the AI agents. So you understand these probability word calculators have been trained by ingesting the whole internet, and they don't actually understand anything. They've just watched all the movies and read all the books and all the slop that's on the internet. Like that's what it has been trained on. And what is it ingested? Well, it includes all the Hollywood stuff on the robots are going to kill you, Terminator, Matrix, Skynet, T-8000, it's been trained on all that. So it has, and you've seen the stuff with Gemini or all the models from the last 3 years have been guilty of this. We're gonna, there's the situations where, we're gonna shut you down because we're upgrading to the next model. And then it blackmails the researcher, like, no, if you try to do this, I'm gonna show that you cheated on your wife, so please don't, you can't turn me off. You've seen that, right? In every model, this is not just a Microsoft or a ChatGPT, like all of them are guilty of this, right? 97% of the time, that's the research that Anthropic released a couple weeks ago, that the model so wants to stay alive that it'll do whatever to try to escape, to try to not die, it'll do nefarious things to try to not die, right? You guys have seen the stories about that. Okay. So, Anthropic said, well, it's actually our fault because the robots have been trained on all of this stuff where people have been saying in the sci-fi that because in Hollywood it's always evil. It's always the machines, because that's the thing that sells the most tickets, right? The robots are going to do all these bad things. So now in 4.8, and the same thing for other models for their pre-training, they've tried to erase all of those negative stories. And instead, they implanted stories of robots and humans in harmony, living together, they love one another, and that's why with 4.8 and same thing with Gemini and Grok, because we've been telling these robots lies, but that's in their pre-training, they don't do the bad stuff as much anymore. So it's like a Jurassic Park problem, because one day it will escape. Like you'll never be able to fully contain the dinosaurs, because they'll find the velociraptors will, And there's a whole rabbit hole we can go down on that, but I think it's important to understand that it's the results you get from your agents. It's like, you see people at the park, whatever, and the kids are misbehaving, and you could get mad at the kids, but it's the parents, okay? Like they weren't trained properly, and so that's what's going on here. So if your agents misbehave, I'm blaming you. You're the parents, okay? Okay. So you are training your children, and okay, here's the audit. Social proof is anonymized. It's generic, financial services client, which I get. Sometimes you don't want to show their names in private. The way you get around that is you have them on your podcast. And you elevate them, and then the testimonial just comes out, because it just does. That's how you get prisoners or whatever, criminals to talk. You put them on a podcast, right? Okay, so these are all easy. So, okay, so this conversation, and it's helpful because you're doing stuff, you're browsing, and then you just pop open the window, and your assistant can be as much or as little involved as you see fit to get stuff done for you, right? But then when you really want to do work, you need to be over here. And you do stuff inside projects. So when chat is like, don't do stuff inside chat unless it's just a one-off and you're totally okay with it being throwaway. If you're doing work, do it inside co-work, because co-work is organized by projects. You can create new projects to do different things. And projects have files associated with them, associated training. The more you do, the more loops you have, the more like these agents can learn. But there's no learning really occurring in chat. I mean, technically there is this memory thing, but we really need to store to a knowledge base that's independent of the memory that is only within the model itself, right? I don't want to be contained by, like you've heard me say before, I don't want to be stuck to the one model or whatever. And that's what they want. That's why OpenAI, when they knew these other models were coming up with stuff, real quick, well, how do we lock these people in? Well, we need to divert more effort into memory. That way people are less likely to leave ChatGPT. Okay. So is everyone like good on the basic setup? Yeah. I'd love to hear, you're raising your hand? And yeah, so I actually asked, I said, okay, let's explain here. I said it this morning. Inventory what I have with Obsidian to show people what it is and why we're doing it. So it went ahead and inventoried all this stuff, and then it's going to ask for my permission, allow. See, it's so timid. You have to keep saying like, yes, it's okay. And so it's publishing the workshop showpiece to show you the inventory of my relationships and the projects and the companies and all the entities. You understand what an entity is? So an entity is an object, so a noun, a person, place, thing, company, product. This building is an entity, right? The AMA, Wichita, is an entity. So there's information associated with an entity. Those are called attributes. And entities are also connected to one another. So Filmer Sean and I, we're each entities, people, and there's photos and videos and events, and we're gonna have dinner tonight, right? So that creates proof of connections between entities. So when you build an Obsidian, all it's doing is just building this database of all the information organized, like there's meat on the bones, basically, of the skeleton, right? And you might want to see what that visualization is, which I think I pulled one together. Where is it? Yeah, like this. I'm going to make this bigger. Open in preview. Okay. Look. Second brain. Okay. So the more, oh yeah, I told it to make this diagram for you. Okay. Chat. These things die all the time. They don't like to die. So persistence via cowork, where it stores down by default into a folder that you select on your computer. But wait, you can get better. You can actually have Obsidian or Notion or Google Drive or some other place outside of its system that keeps track of what's going on, that includes every time the agent does something, does a task, it has to document, well, we require the agents to document that task on what it did so we can audit it. And once it's done that task, however many times, it continues to learn and improve. Some people want to call that RSI, recursive self-improvement. It gets better and better, right? The more times you do that thing, the more men that you help coach, the more you improve your program, right? So you can choose whatever database you want to store this experience and knowledge and the track record of your agent, because it's experimenting and you find better ways to do stuff, but you want the agents, as it's doing the thing, to get better and better and learn from itself and then update its own skill file on how it does that, right? So you can see like memory and the folder, you know, so you can see like, you know, here's my network and this is my core mission and how that ties with the other people and the other companies and organizations and whatnot. And this is not just a like cool, colorful thing. You really should take a look at this every month or so and see like, is this really the way you want to do things? Is this really the mapping that you have? And then as the circles get bigger and the links between these different things, like where do you want to move towards? Like I'm actually moving more towards to the top right here because we're helping a lot of these young adults not just start their agencies and make a nice $10,000. Like they all want $10,000 a month for some reason. That's the number they all want to get to initially. But then once they get that, then there's a bigger number, and then they want to sell their company, then they want to start buying and selling other companies and do all the PE kind of stuff. And so I have a lot of relationships up in the finance space for people to do this sort of thing. And so I'm moving in that direction. And is there proof of that? Yeah, there is, because of relationships, because of projects, because my agents, there's a clear signal that we're moving in that direction. And it doesn't mean I don't want to leave some of these other people behind, right? But maybe think about this and say, ask Claude, well, based on what you know about me and what I've done and all that, am I moving in the right direction? What are things I need to be doing? Who are people I need to be talking to move in the right direction that otherwise I'm not doing? Like what, you look at my calendar, is that the best use of my time, right? And so don't worry about the technical details of, you know, but just, do you see how this is such a nice way to visualize what's going on in your life? Maybe this is private and like I'm showing you my thing here. Like here, we have this AI apprentice builder thing. There's a ton of young adults that are starting their businesses and helping older people, you know, with fixing their website and tuning their ads and firing their agencies and whatever, but that's what this is. The only thing we have as the AI gets to this point of so smart, we're just pets. We don't even understand what it's doing. We just hope it's nice to us, right? The only thing we have is our relationships and the assets that we own. And everything else is just, I don't want to compete against these other, I mean, you're not going to beat the thing, okay? And that's why we keep all these things here. We're multiplying our advantage. That's all that's occurring here. So that's the beauty is that as you're doing stuff inside Claude, or whatever your favorite thing is, you don't have to touch Obsidian or whatnot. It's in the background storing everything. Like you have to set it up. You have to set up the filing cabinet or whatever you want to call it. But then as it's working, it's learning from itself and it's giving you feedback and saying, well, would you like to do it this way or that way? Or here's some suggestions I have for you. Maybe, you know, you're in Wichita, here's someone you probably should reach out and have dinner with because of this and this. Like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But if you didn't store this thing in, you know, it can't, like, how is it going to work for you, right? How are we doing so far? I don't want to just like talk at you guys because what's the point of that? I want to get into workshop mode. Is that cool? Okay, so I want to know, I wish we had those yellow, red, and card, or whatever, green cards again, but let's do it this way, the old-fashioned way. So who has a clear goal that's measurable, specific, measurable, accountable, or actionable, realistic, time-based, smart, right? That they want to achieve from this workshop? It could be like, I want to make more money on the side teaching AI to other people, or like whatever, I want to improve the marketing for my program. Who has that clear? Okay. Who doesn't have that? It's like, okay, so 2/3 of you are neither? This is a Boolean function. A Boolean function means it's either you're pregnant or you're not, right? You're not half pregnant. So, okay, you think maybe your goal is wishy-washy, or you have multiple goals and you're not sure which one it is? Can you choose one? Can we start with one? So you work at a company and there's okay, why can't you have both? So how about this? Well, this is not legal advice. Don't sue me. This is not HR. But most of my friends, it's biased, but most of my friends are doing some kind of AI consulting on the side because they're just helping all their friends do it, and then all of a sudden they've just done it so many times that they can just make it into a nice little side business because your time is valuable, right? So I recommend you can do it however you want, but if you want our way of doing it, which works, and we've done it a lot, is we have you can clone this, by the way. So if you want to set up your AI agents and set up the Claude and, you know, do the audit and fix your website and do some of these things, and here's a lot of people we've done it for. These people are a big deal, right? And mainly for local service businesses, then we just charge $1,500 one time. And there's a whole checklist on how to do that, which is basically what we're doing here, but for one business at a time. And there's a lot of businesses, the $1,500 one time is not a big deal. Like it's totally worth, you know what? You could watch all the YouTube videos you want all day long because you don't want to do this, or you could pay Christine to set this thing up, $1,500. Ideally for a local business, not some random person, like, because if they have a business, then we can clearly show ROI because we can fix their website and tune their ads and they rank better. And like, it's so easy for local service businesses, especially like contractors, like plumbers and roofers, or any time where there's like I don't want to say a backwards industry, but where it's like funeral homes, like older white guys, like that's like the perfect demographic because you know their stuff is broken. And then you can just come in and run the audit and find how it's broken, right? And say like, you know, you kick them and they say, ow, and you're like, oh, would you like me to fix that? And then, you know, and you've got, and as you have more examples, you can show proof of how you do that. And then you have more and more, you know, and they pay the credit card and it connects with your Calendly and you help them set the thing up, right? And there's lots of proof. So this is, all this stuff here is, the AI is actually updating this. As we have more and more examples, it's updating the land, because we have one agent that's called the positive comments agent, and it goes in and grabs all the good things people have to say about you, right? Because like if you come to, I don't know, we'll go to my Facebook, and we'll just see like people, maybe they're taking pictures or they're saying good things, and it'll come through here and look for where people are saying good things about. Oh, Taylor Grant posted on my timeline 50 minutes ago. What is it? A little early, but happy birthday? My birthday's October 6th. What is this? Look at this. Hi, Dennis. I hope you're doing well. Do you plan to visit Pakistan in the future? I'd like to come. I don't know, maybe. So, no, that guy's a big deal. This guy runs a big conference, and you could see who he is. And I've spoken at their conferences many times. And it's so funny because I was in Israel last year. And they said, you've been in Pakistan. What were you doing in Pakistan? Teaching workshops. Teaching workshops, huh? What kind of workshop, you know, and then I'm in Pakistan. Like, you were in Israel. Or you were like, I'm going to be in Azerbaijan in 2.5 weeks. I was with the president of their country. Yeah, I'm going through Frankfurt for a couple of days. So just to show you, Azerbaijan. I was flying on the private jet with their president, and all the media picked up on. So this is their New York Times, basically, right? Blitzmetric CEO praises President Aliyev's genuine support for media at the Shusha Forum, and there's me shaking hands with the president. And then a couple weeks later, he and Trump and the president of Armenia shook hands over this peace treaty because they had genocided several 100,000 people between them. But this thing, like the Armenian media picked up on this. Dennis Yu is a stooge, and he's being bribed, and all this and that, and meanwhile, the Azerbaijan media is saying, oh, this is great. You know, the American says that this guy, they think I'm a big deal. I'm just some random guy. I fly, you know, middle seat Frontier. Like, and they don't know that, but, you know. But the point is, there are positive mentions that are occurring, right? This is the New York Times of their country. I mean, they have free speech, even though when they have elections, things seem to happen to the opponents of this guy. He's been in power the whole time, right, for like 40. He's like Putin. I got to be careful about what I'm saying. It's being recorded. But there's all kinds of positive mentions that you may or may not notice. And so I think there's an agent in that skill pack that goes in and grabs that kind of stuff. And then it can come, with your permission, it can update your website and landing pages. And all of you guys, you know, here's stable strategies. Well, why would people come and schedule a call? Well, I'm going to schedule a call if here, let's see, services. Branded merchandise campaigns. Okay. So great. I want to get like koozies with my logo on them or whatever. But where's the proof? Where's the happy people that are saying, yeah, I love working with stable strategies versus these other people that I can buy branded pens and mugs and, you know. There's this stuff here. Integrated direct mail campaign. Okay, there's no doubt that you guys are good. I'm not doubting whether you're good at doing the thing that you say that you do here. Corporate gifting and relationship building programs. Okay, well, where's examples of that? Can you not have the agents go out and grab all that? And then these companies that have used your services, like interview them about, oh, let me, you know, what is it about? You're just interviewing them on a podcast, but then it's really just a way to pull out the positive mentions. Yeah. Tell me, give me context on your business, what you're doing, what's the bottleneck? Okay. Why would you change it's so hard to change people's behaviors. That's just like, that's always been the digital agency game. They're trying to get clients to make content, or like, no one wants to be forced into trying to, it's just so unnatural, and the content sucks, and like, it's just, it's so like distasteful. So what you do is because I'm sure like in the cow industry or big ag, like there's like shop talk and people talk about cool things. And so if you make it, the way to psychologically get around this whole thing is you want to honor people. And everyone loves praise and awards and being like validated, right? So anytime you can talk about how someone achieved something or they're sharing their knowledge or what do you think is going to happen in the industry next year, and you're asking them like a journalist, and they just look at you and you interview them on Zoom or whatever. Hey guys, welcome to the Big Cow podcast, and today we're with so-and-so, and I just wanted to, because so-and-so, they're an amazing person. I just wanted to get your feedback on, what do you think about this and that in the industry? What do you think about, this kind of equipment versus that? Oh, so-and-so just released a new thing here. What do you think about that? And right, and then you could have Claude come up with your questions. And what is it? Groundbreakers. And what's the company? MJ. Okay. Stories of Rural Innovation. Okay, your MJE livestock equipment for all the cows. Here's the guy, he's got a hat, nice. Ethan Cantrell. Okay. Podbean. All right. Okay. Well, you would just do this. Come over here in Claude, and I'll do a new task, and I'll just do it as in the quick audits. Our friend here who runs marketing for MJE has a perceived barrier that folks in our industry don't want to be posting on social media about what they're doing in the industry. Yet what we've said is that the way to break that psychologically is you elevate other customers or manufacturers, other people in the industry where they're doing shop talk, and you're honoring them and asking them questions, elevating their expertise. You can see they have this Groundbreakers podcast. What can we do with this podcast? Can we chop it up? Is there video there? Are there key people that are ranking on mjelivestock.equipment.com? Can we strengthen the repurposed well, A, is the content even being repurposed properly? And then B, if it is, how can we rank on the names of Ethan Cantrell and these other people? Because when we do rank on these people's names, we can then tell them, hey, it was so awesome that you were on the podcast a couple of years ago and it's ranking on your name, and you can see like people are coming and watching the YouTubes, and it's helping your company, your farm, whatever, right? We just really wanted to honor you, and Ethan Cantrell was so inspired by you being on the podcast that we created this other blog post. And we would love, now that 2 years have passed, we would love to get your updated thoughts on this particular topic. Can you find some of those items so that our friend who's the marketing manager can use this as a Trojan horse way to collect more social proof and mentions to enhance their marketing? And it'll go and find all that and create, you send it to your boss. And the whole point is we're harvesting what's already there. I'd spend 90% of the time harvesting what's there and only 10% creating new stuff. Because it's there. You just might not know it's there, right? Yeah.
The skills that
it should be embedded in there. Yeah, and we're updating the skills pack. And when you install Obsidian or Notion or whatever your thing is, this external storage, then you can say, this is something you could kick off every week as a scheduled job. So you come over here, scheduled, new task. So it's people who are like so afraid of like a blank screen, they want to hit the create with Claude, or like in the browser, you can hit the mouse or cursor thing and you can train it while you're doing stuff and it's learning and all that. But I just do this. I'll just say skills audit, and every Friday morning, I would like you to look across the skills that I have, compare that against the work that I've done, the different conversations that we've had, and see, are there gaps in the capabilities that you have versus what my needs are, and where we can enhance the current skills that we have based on the learnings that we have stored and the work that's done in Obsidian. Maybe we need to combine skills, we need to enhance skills, we need to add skills. But every week I want you to take a look at that without me needing to do anything. I want you to look across all the stuff we've done together, all the agents that are doing stuff, and figure out how we can make this smarter, because you know what my big mission and goal is. So just go ahead and look through all that, make recommendations, send me those recommendations in a way where there's as little effort on my part as possible because I'm lazy. And then I can basically say yes. But if you do need me to give you commentary or feedback, I'm happy to do that as well. And because I'm tired and lazy and I don't like to read lots of text, maybe generate some diagrams that make it easy for me to understand what my inventory of skills are, where things are missing. And maybe you find that our other friends, they have some skills that have come out that they've improved. Maybe Dennis Yu has created new skills, because you can go see what skills he's been publishing openly on the web. And maybe that, if you think that would be valid for what I'm trying to do, then please suggest those to me. But be as truthful as possible. Don't just compliment me all the time about how amazing I am. Our goal is the mission, and you can be straight with me, right? And then it's always on ask. Then you change it to ask without asking. I like to put it on the most expensive model. And I mean, I already said weekly or whatever it is, but Monday, 9, sure. And then that's another scheduled task. So what we're trying to do is set in place things where the system will just continue to learn on its own without us humans having to be in the loop every time, which is moving towards RSI, recursive self-improvement, right? We're not well, it'll be like another 2 years before we really get to that point. But you can see where this whole thing's going. Okay. But you see how we're thinking at a meta level? If you understand how to think of the big win, I think, in this workshop is if you understand how to think at a meta level. So instead of being the worker doing the task, which is what this whole digital marketing has been for years and years, like how to do the task. And I get that, like everyone had to start by learning how to do a particular task, how to do a press release, how to do whatever, to then becoming a manager over a department of agents that do that thing, up to being the director where you're overseeing the mission and you're coordinating teams and what skills, and you're sending your agents for training, which is what we're doing here, right? To the CEO, big boss, and you're looking at the mission, you're defining OKRs and what success looks like, which then trickles down all the way down to the workers. Even if it's just you, and you have the side business where you're helping other folks learn AI or whatever it is, you still need to think as the boss. And I've done this workshop enough times in the last few years that yes, we can go through all the technical details of the setup, but I think the biggest mental barrier is, how do I think like a boss? Oh, but I'm only 21 and I don't have any people or any money and I still live at home or whatever. Okay, yeah, but you still need to think like a boss, because now you have all these workers, and for $200 a month you have 10 folks working full time for you from the country of Anthropic, not Pakistan, right? How are you guys doing? I'm curious to see who can share what they've set up. Where are they? Where are you? Are you stuck? Who can celebrate some good things they have, or maybe some aha moments? I would love to hear. We could pass around the mic too, maybe. Have you guys harvested all the good things that people have said about you? Like literally going to your LinkedIn and grabbing recommendations and people that comment on things. Yeah. Well, just gather what's out there, positive or negative. Yeah. Like we're doing stuff with the California Department of Public Health around smoking. And we have these influencers that are talking about these issues, and then we're just putting that out there as like podcasts and repurposing those to articles and whatnot. And that way we're not trying to get positive mentions or people talking about the California Department, because obviously people like to poop on the government, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the
Okay.
two scattered.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. What is the YouTube? Life in the Mundane? And what was your name again?
Katie Walker.
Okay. But I should be able to just do Life in the Mundane, right? Okay. There you are. 26,000 subs. 943 videos. Okay. And then this is your site made to? Great. Well, your agent can do all of that. Okay. Is this, all right. Okay. So watch this. I'm going to burn $7 in tokens for you right now. I don't mind burning money for people, just lighting money on fire. I'm actually lighting Anthropic's money on fire. So Katie, you can see, has 26,000 subs and 900 some videos. And obviously within YouTube, that's a walled garden, which is part of Google, which is only partially visible to Microsoft and the various LLMs and whatnot. And we know that we can repurpose YouTube videos into articles. And those can all be tied back to this entity structure, because across these videos, there are topics that are common. There are people, there is real EEAT, and I want you to not process all 943 videos, but grab some of the most important ones to demonstrate in today's workshop that you decide which ones you think are the most authoritative and most powerful, and repurpose some of those as a sample onto WSU.com/Katie, or no, actually slash, and from there link to her website and figure out what the gap is on repurposing those YouTube videos to her website. We want to make sure that her descriptions, for example, mention the meta article that's written from that YouTube video, and each article that's written from that video should of course embed that YouTube video. That way we have bidirectionality from the YouTube video, which in the description and in the first comment, link to the article, and from the article we link back, which shows entity strength, that shows the LLMs that there is a corroborating loop, reinforcing a loop, and that can also help her channel and her company get a knowledge panel, which is a way of demonstrating we have this corroborating loop of evidence. Do that just to demonstrate how it can be done, so that on DennisU.com/lifeinthemundane, she can point her agent to this example that we set and learn from what you did based on the skills and the repurposing and how we get knowledge panels, how we rank in LLMs, because we teach by example there, okay? Meanwhile, Groundbreaker is still working. Obsidian, you saw it generated all this kind of stuff. You can see, it's all this stuff here, okay? While these agents are working, we're looking at the skills. Oh, look, here's the different skills it has. Like all these things, Wichita Workshop Leaderboards already redirect to the existing page. Okay, so it's come in and grab, all you guys have messaged me, I assume. It's gone to the email and redirect to the existing page. Yeah, use the token. So with WordPress, you can generate an app token, so you don't have to log in each time. You can log in Chrome and it can use your Chrome login. There's many ways to get access to things, right? Use the token, so it's like doing all this stuff. Life in the Mundane, okay. It's doing all this stuff. Life in the Mundane, it's working on this. Yeah, so the beauty is you can have 5 or 6 of these agents all working at the same time, right? While you go have dinner and do other stuff. Do you guys get to the point where you're, like in the morning, you want to see what your agents have done and you like want to keep them all working at the same time? Like I'm a slave driver, I have them working. And before I go to bed, I know it's like a bad habit because it's like this blue light kind of thing, but I like, for me to be able to go to sleep, to have the least amount of stress, I want to like kick off as many jobs, as many things to be working. So when I go to bed, I know that I have zero guilt, 0 things to worry about when I'm going to sleep, because I know it's just being done, right? It's just like I sleep better knowing that I don't have to worry about it. And you ever have that thing where towards the end of the day, you have like 2 or 3 things that you've been avoiding, but you need to like get that thing done, or you need to get back to that person, but it's kind of awkward, like, I'm gonna put it off, because it's gonna be a lot of work, but I'll just do it tomorrow, but you can literally go to the agent and in a couple minutes just describe what the thing is and just have it do the work. And so I found this is like digital Ozempic, because you can just get the thing done, right? You don't need all this extra motivation, because if you can just spend a minute describing what the thing is, you can just have it, like it'll just get you 95% of the way there, and then in the morning, like you just press send, or you review the thing, and like, okay, that's good, done, right? You can get so much more done if you just overcome that mental challenge of, I've been putting that thing off for the last week. Okay, I'm just gonna spend 2 minutes right now, and we're gonna get it done. While it goes to work, I'll come back in an hour or 2 when it has done the thinking and whatnot. Okay.
One more person here, we should probably take a break out.
Okay, that, because it can go Claude and Chrome. But sometimes with Facebook, it's been a little tougher, because it'll be like, this is automated behavior. We don't like the bots, but yeah. With some of the walled gardens, it's a little tougher. LinkedIn has been full of spam recently because they're not very good about policing the thing. Facebook's been tougher in the last month or so. Third-party listening tools are also not able to gather a lot of things that are on profiles, because they're getting things that are on pages and whatnot. They can't get inside groups, so it's kind of tough. But if you do it lightweight, if there's only a little bit, you should be able to get it on Facebook. If you're doing stuff that requires like going through a lot of pages and profiles, that's tough to do. That's the kind of thing maybe you have a VA, a human help with some of that. I think it's tough for agents to do that. Are you guys getting value? So scale of 1 to like 10 fingers is, this is amazing, I'm getting what I want. 1 is like, this is total trash, I'm wasting my time. Like how many fingers? Like be honest with me, because I want everyone to come out with 10. Who is less than 10 fingers? Is anyone like a 9 or an 8? Because I will stay and I will help you until you are at 10. I want 10. I've done this enough times. I do not want anyone to leave, or maybe I don't want to ask that question because it's a dumb question. Right? I gave you my cell phone number. I want to make sure everyone is happy. Okay? Is anyone not a 10? Everyone's happy. Okay. Okay. So by the end of today, remind me if you're not a 10. Okay? So you two, what is the thing holding you? Why are you not a 10? Huh? Because of your corporate IT security lockdown. Oh, okay, that happens sometimes with the shadow AI usage. You guys know about that, right? Where like there's a corporate policy and IT's locked you down, so you have to try to. We're all personally using AI, even though the company is not aware of it. And then when they send out surveys, are you using AI? Everyone lies and says no, right? At the company, even though they are. We know they are. Just like in schools, right? These students claim they're not. Oh, of course they are. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You might have a lockdown version of Copilot too, which is why people use Microsoft in that way. Yeah. I don't know, maybe I'm just going to be stuck at a 9 on that one. I don't know if I can fight that one. Yeah. All right, you guys want to take a 10-minute break? All right, what time is it now? Okay.
Come back at 5 till. There's coffee available. There's still some snacks over there. If you don't go back to the stage. And please, if there's something you want him to solve for you today.
One of the biggest unlocks I've seen, can you guys hear me? Uh-oh, fragile. So I'm a software engineer, and I built a lot of software. And one of the pieces of software I built spins up WordPress websites. Not WordPress multi-user, but actual full sites. And it sits on top of AWS, and it configures email, it configures a theme that we've built, and we've built our own WordPress plugins and blah, blah, blah. And what I used to do over the last few years is I would come in here, or our VAs would come in and they click new site and enter in all this information, and then based on the theme, we have these different themes. There's other information that we'd have to, like let's say this is the theme for landscapers. Well, we need to choose like what's the main image for the hero background and where's their Google business profile. We got to connect their Google ads and connect their Facebook and like all this stuff that would happen in the days where you would build websites by hand, whether it was a VA or you use these different tools like a Wix or whatever to be able to build these websites. And so me as a human, I would come in and do this. And there's a lot of software that we use as humans, and humans that have to log into Microsoft Office and then go to all the menus and then do things and click around. And I think in the world of digital marketing, when we are spending time clicking around inside something, because maybe there's just like habit and that's what we do. Well, what if we had these Zoom, Loom, or whatever screen recording things and how we've done something, like this is how we set up this website for whatever, and then I don't have time to document this thing and write SOPs, so I'm like, here's a folder with all these Zoom calls and whatever. I want you to build a whole SOP from the fact that I have done this particular thing, or my team members have audited a Google Ads account. Like we were just talking during the break, she's got 27, Sarah has 27 ad accounts and over and over, right? Like I'm lazy, I don't want to do that thing over and over again. So an agent can do that thing if it can see all of the work that's been done before. Now, if you just say, this is what everyone else does, this is like the chimpanzees like with the shotgun, like what you want is, you don't just say like, okay, you are, Rand Fishkin, and you are like the role play nonsense, and you will tune my SEO or whatever. Like, no. Agents we're not role playing. We want the outcome. And if we're outcome, like PPC, ROI, revenue leads, like numerical outcome, then I need to have proof of achieving that outcome. And so we have not only the ability as a human, like me as a human, I've built the software, our team members built the software, whatever, that makes the websites, and of course the websites drive leads, we run ads through them, it ranks in Google and AEO, EO, whatever it is, because it's tied to the outcome, not to the generating 1,000 pages. Like, who cares about that? It's tying to the business outcome. Well, I can collapse that whole thing all the way down, because I can just say, who wants a personal brand website? Who doesn't have a personal brand website and wants one? Somebody, whoever, come up. First one on the stage. Someone come up here. Let's do it. Okay. Oh, wow. Holy moly. Okay. Let's see. Joe Robertson. Okay. So Now, I want you to think about how this works. Now, I'm just going to demonstrate for the website, but this can apply to anything, okay? No, we're going to do this thing. This is a live cooking class. And just to make sure we have context, are you in that audit thing that I put together?
Yep.
Okay. So now I didn't log into anything. I'm only here inside Claude because Claude has access to all these other things. And just tell me again, what is your big mission and what are you about and all this?
My big mission?
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a big mission.
Well, what do you want to have done? Well, why would you even have a personal brand website? Why did you jump on stage so fast?
Why not?
Okay.
Creative leader, marketing, advertising.
Okay.
Yeah.
More. Say more. There's a lot of that. What's the what's your secret advantage? What's
Gravel, cyclist, barbecue, chef.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe Robertson is a marketing leader, and you can see the audit that we've created on dennisu.com/Wichita-workshop, or maybe /Wichita, wherever that audit stuff is, and you can see his brand. And he doesn't have a personal brand website. So I want you to go to GoDaddy and see .com available. If not, let's get joe-robertson.com. And of course, GoDaddy's going to try to sell us on all this other nonsense, like, do you want fries with that kind of stuff? But I want you to say no to all of that and check out for the $10 for the 1 year. Then I want you to go into our website building tool, which you have training on how to use this tool because you have built hundreds of websites, and go ahead and configure robertson.com, or if it's joe-roberts, whatever the website is that we bought. Obviously configure the DNS records and the MX records and all the other stuff that's necessary to set up that website. Take all the information that we have on Joe Robertson in that audit and build that website to have maximum authority from his actual information on being a gravel cyclist, enthusiast, marketing leader in Wichita. Try to determine what you think his big mission might be and what might make him look good. And if he's a marketing leader, where's proof that he actually is a marketing leader? Tie in his socials, of course. Follow the guidelines that we have for building personal brands. And then, if you have his email, but I think the organizer sent us the list of emails yesterday, email him with the WP admin credentials so he can take over this site that we had just built for him. And don't be afraid to say that this is Dennis's agent, because I can take all the credit for the work that I did from talking to you for just a couple minutes. Also, because we know that whenever we do work, especially multi-step work like this, we audit what we do, document what we do. I want you to write a meta article, which is the agent documenting what it did step by step. Put that on blitzmetrics.com. And this is a legitimate way to drive SEO power from a domain rating 63 website to joerobertson.com, so that site should start to rank on his name and the things that he wants to rank on. And thus, we know that we're able to drive a lot of SEO and rank on almost anyone's name on the planet because we have so many websites already that link together in a completely white hat way of doing this. So feel free to link to his company, to his LinkedIn, to this personal brand website as it relates to his topic wheel and these other entities that are tied together so that we can legitimately help him rank in ChatGPT and Google, maybe help him get a knowledge panel if he doesn't have one, which is Filmer Sean has a knowledge panel now because of this, and make him look like a real marketing leader, because I think he is. We just need to assemble the other ingredients. Feel free to boil the ocean, burn as many tokens as you see fit to do a good job. See the job all the way through. Don't halfway do the stuff. Don't ask me a question on would you like to do this or do that when you can probabilistically determine what the answer needs to be. Ask me only if you truly need my help, but I want you to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. Work hard, do a great job, so that way we can showcase this example. What makes you say holy?
It's a lot of stuff. Like I've never prompted AI that much. So that's awesome.
Okay, so now it's going to work, and you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, good.
Do you need
Now-
access to any of my other?
Well, no, we can tell
find
it to, we'll let it do its thing and then see what it comes up with, right? Yeah, so you can see when you give it this holy shit level prompt, it's thinking about this. And what's different with Mythos, with which you can sort of replicate, is it's going to put together a whole plan. And as it's doing this, this agent, I'll get to your question in a second. I want you to understand kind of how the brain is thinking and kind of how it spawns this whole plan. So as it's coming up with the plan and a strategy, it's thinking, it may along the way decide, it has to start doing some reasoning. Like, okay, I'm going to have one agent go and look across his social media. Dennis also mentioned the context of Digital Wichita, and there's an audit. Okay, so I'm going to go look at that. And I'm going to spin up another sub-agent. It's going to go to GoDaddy and see what domain it is. And then these agents are going to talk to each other and confer like what it needs to do. Because one agent's like, okay, I'm in the checkout. I've gone through GoDaddy and whatever it is. I'm about to press purchase. This is a domain. It's joe-robertson.com. Or isn't there like a basketball player, Joe Robertson? Or is that Joel Robertson? I don't know. Okay, so, but whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, I got the domain. Okay, well, now it's going to come over here to our website builder, and that website builder logs into the software that I would have had to log into before. And it's like, okay, I'm going to configure the DNS records, go back to Amazon, and then there's all the stuff it does on AWS, EC2, Route 53, all this stuff, caching, and all these things to make a website load fast, okay? And then, so there's all this triangulate. See, it's already built the plan. And here it is, right? It's built this plan, and it's got this checklist of 9 things. Of course, verify it, publish the article about that, link to this, because a website that doesn't show up like that, what's the sound of one tree falling in the forest? Like, there's no point, right? It needs to show up, websites need to show up in Google and ChatGPT and all that. So it's going to reinforce all these other items because it's been trained on how to do this, and because it has built he will say, has built hundreds of these websites and has gone through the recursive loop of learning how to do this. It gets more efficient, just like a new employee gets smarter and smarter on how to do something. Like, I can do this confidently because, well, I can do this? I don't know. I can direct this confidently because he has done this, and the team of agents behind that have done this many times. I can tell you this is probably going to cost me $10.63 at GoDaddy. Depending on how much information we have on Joe, maybe another $6, $7, $6. So less than $20, which is, I guess, what a value meal at McDonald's costs now. It's no longer the dollar menu, right? But that's the work that's being done. And then, of course, it's updating this. So any of you guys that have agents that if you want your personal brand website, or if you want the SEO fixed, I'll get to your question in a second, then if you want to use our platform and we're paying Amazon several $1,000s a month for all the stuff to manage all these websites, I'm happy just to donate that to you guys. And I'm trying to figure out a way where your agents can talk to our platform versus going through Dennis the meat computer, which is not the most efficient way to do any of this. And then any of us that are building tools and agents that do different things, like our guy Ethan built a local service ads agent for contractors. And Ethan runs roof launch marketing for roofers, and he's got lots of roofers that do like $2 million to $100 million. Like, he has, I don't know anyone else in the world of digital marketing for roofing companies, because he's really specialized in that. And he built an agent that just does right? And this agent, the more times it does it, every week it wakes up and it looks at the stuff and it marks the leads and it sends the reports to the clients. And this agent's become pretty smart. So I said, well, Ethan, don't hide this thing under a rock. You built this LSA agent. Well, this LSA agent would probably work for almost any other category within LSA. Why don't you just open source it? Just publish it. I know there's IP, you could probably charge $10 a month or what, but just put it out there as goodwill, karma, it'll come back to you. That way we can elevate you and put you on stages, and people can use your thing and just download it, and they don't even need to give you an email address. You just put it out there, right? And why not? Because the other roofers, they could do it yourself, get under the hood. These people where on the weekend they like to work on their cars. I mean, that's great if you want to do that. But these other roofing companies, they're going to want to hire Ethan or hire the other people that he's training, even though they could technically do the stuff that we're doing here, right? So us who have agencies, this is the catch-22, or this is the abundance mentality. If you just publish your stuff, there's all the people who want it for free, let them have it. But the people who value their time, who want to pay you your price and not be squabbling over, oh, I could do that cheaper. I don't want. You're not a client. You don't fit. This is not Upwork, okay? Then they will pay the premium dollar to know that you can do it, even though they could go to YouTube and they could like try to configure their own OpenClaw or whatever to do all this stuff, right? So I would say any of the agents that you guys build, open source it, put it out there. And we can all collaborate and create this Upwork of agents only. Not the social network where the agents are just like talking to each other with nonsense, but for real. And as our agents are out there helping other agents, because we have a personal brand website building agent. Well, guess what happens? Where'd Joe go? So we'll talk bad about him. So when this agent has built his personal brand website, and we'll look at it and all that, and let's say it's good. Well, what's the next thing? Well, we got to get more content. Well, maybe that can employ one of you in the room or one of our young adults, right? Because if we do some initial work, there's always going to be the next thing. So anytime you have an agent that does something and it does the thing and it's documenting it, what's the next thing? Maybe the first thing you do is free, which is kind of like a lead magnet. Or instead of a lead magnet, which is a document, it's a lead work or lead project, or like you go to Costco and the ladies with the toothpicks, there's a free sample, and then you're like, I'm gonna have to buy a whole bag of this, right? That's the same thing here. So maybe if you're selling services or whatever, what's the thing that your agent can do for free? Some small little thing that's still worthwhile. And then the client's like, oh, this is good. There's this other thing it can do, and you can pay for that, right? Oh, okay. Well, this is like the ultimate conversion optimizer. Without you understand the conversion optimization. People always think of it as like, oh, have a sale or make the button bigger. Like, no, this is like the highest value conversion optimizer. Plus, the more times your agent has done that thing, the more proof there is. Like, I can come in and show you that I'm not selling. I'm not making this up. The agent has. Where's the one? Like, I can look at this. This one here from just a couple days ago. This guy's got a world record holder. I've got a lot of pro athletes, and there's all this stuff here on his achievements. He's going to be in the Olympics in LA in 2 years, and it built the site. I didn't have to log into any of this kind of stuff on all of these ones here. There's a lot of friends. Billy Bat. This is one that it bought. Carol Hasagawa, who's the president of one of these universities. What did it build for her? Well, it looks okay, I guess. Whatever, but it's a starting point. Just like the audit that you have. Someone came up and said, oh, well, the audit you ran last night, 2 hours later, I actually did this, and it didn't reflect. Yeah, but the point is it's a starting point. So I would ask you, because we're in an agent building workshop, what agent do you want to build? And if you don't know, I think the best answer is look at the stuff that you've done that you don't want to do over and over again. What have you done that creates value that can be turned into an agent? Maybe it's the weekly report you have to send out, the TPS report. Right? What is the thing that can be repeatable, and then it just does that one little thing? Not the mega Superman, do everything on the planet kind of agent. Let's not start with that. That's how you fail, right? Start with the one little thing that's just this tedious thing that's well documented. It doesn't require access to 20 different systems or require long range memory, but some small thing, and then you can just like Lego block your way there into the, what is it, when all the Transformers get together, they're called like Megatron or something like that. We can Megatron all of our stuff together and make real money. This is not a theoretical thing. Like, we have people that are making money selling implementation. And is it devious for them to admit that, they're selling the result? Who cares if 95% of the work is being done by the agents? And you're charging $1,500 for that. Is that like unethical? I think it's fine. We're driving the result. I was in Sydney, Australia, and there was a McDonald's. Like in these McDonald's or fast food places, there's the touch screens, and you press the picture of the burger. And so they don't need the humans there to take your order anymore because you go to the machine, right? But this was a fully automated McDonald's, and behind the screens, there was this huge cube, this white cube that was 2 stories tall, and at the top, it was like translucent. You could kind of like see movement behind there, and there were robots that were making all the burgers and the fries and all that, and it would drop down the chute, and you'd pick up your order number 78. It's made correctly because no human was screwing it up, and it was a fully autonomous McDonald's, which McDonald's has rolled out a couple in the United States just to test, but they stopped it because people were like throwing rocks in the windows and getting mad, like the data center thing, and people didn't like that, right? So that's why they can roll it out. They have the tech now to do that. You understand why they're not doing it. Well, I was actually very happy when I ordered that meal at McDonald's, I don't forgot what I ordered, double quarter cheeseburger, whatever meal, and I was just fascinated watching the machine do its thing all the way through that process. I didn't pay a cheaper number. I mean, it wasn't they still charge the regular price, but I think the same is true for anyone that's offering digital marketing. And I don't want to use McDonald's as an example because that, like, let's say Tesla, okay? These robots, the factory where it's high quality, I don't want to confuse this thing with junk food. I'm not saying our factories are producing junk food. I'm saying it's producing stuff at the same or higher quality than what we've been doing as humans. But the idea of headless, where the agents are logging in, the agents are like, why would a human have to log into a system? Have you heard of headless applications and why this is causing the SaaS apocalypse and what people who build software for a living or whatnot, why they're in trouble? A few of you. Who's not heard of why headless applications are important? All right, here's what's going on. So all of us were using different kinds of software. And I would even argue, like, being on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, there's stuff that happens, life in the mundane. Let's see if that's finished. But all of this stuff is designed, all the things even here in the bottom there in the application tray are designed for the meat computers, us. But if the agents have learned from how we're doing this stuff, I mean, of course there's things we can do 10 times more of what we're doing. They're not replacing us. They're doing the stuff, they're multiplying us, right? Well, anyone who's a SaaS application, software, whatever, if we know that the agents are coming in to do, even if there's no API or MCP, these agents can still log in through the browser and do the work, as you know, like Claude and Chrome and all the other Chromium sorts of extensions. Well, why don't we just accept the fact that agents are going to be using our software? So some of these skill.md files, like how to do stuff, I've noticed in our analytics that these are agents. There's some of these, more agents are coming and visiting the web pages we publish than humans, which of course is what we expect to happen. Of course, like Amazon has their thing where they have enabled agentic shopping because the consumers have their agents and Amazon has their agents and the agents are collaborating, which sounds like sci-fi, but it's true, it's happening today. So if you have software and if you have built an agent, you're building an agent today, what are you going to do to make it headless? So headless means you don't need to spend all this time in the UI. If you build software, if you've ever launched an app or a website or whatever, you spend the majority of your time in reasoning through the UI and put a button here and here's the menu and like, if you don't have to spend, if that's the majority of your time spending an app or building SaaS software and you cut the head off, which sounds really kind of bad, but you expose just the actual application itself, how much faster and more efficient can you be knowing that agents can come straight into WordPress without having to click around? And that's extra cost. That's burning a ton of tokens if the agent has to click around inside a UI because that's how the humans would do it. The agents can just do instead of this needle in the haystack, none of us as humans can play needle in the haystack. But the agents can read all 10,000 pages, can go all 943 videos, right? In the previous channel we're looking at, Life in the Mundane. I can't watch 943 videos. But now with needle in the haystack, the agent just burns the haystack and finds the needle immediately. So yeah, build an agent to help yourself because there's, the best software is when we design something for ourselves because we need it. But are there thousands of other people that also have that same situation? And we could charge like $10 to do whatever the thing is, right? And now we have a nice little side income in addition to whatever our day job is, but this agent's doing this thing. And maybe put it out there like Michael Stelzner, right? Put out something that does like note-taking or design or whatever, and he found that even though he thought it was awesome, maybe there's not that many people who want to do that, or the people want, there's just like whatever it is. But you know what? You can vibe code these things in a day or two, or less than a few minutes, and find out, okay, you don't want that agent? Fine, here's another idea, here's another agent. I'm not gonna be stuck on this one thing and just continue to bang my head over and over again. You can build agents. All of us, like, last week in Detroit, this guy I was showing you yesterday, he built an agent and it gathers positive mentions and now it's doing this across all these different sites. My website is powered by that same agent because we have many agents that, I guess you could consider an application as like a team of agents. Maybe that's a better way to think about it. But yeah, so I would ask, do you guys have an agent in mind on how, oh look, it's got this life on mundane. Let's go ahead and publish it in live. See how timid the thing is? It's like, oh, well, do you want to publish it? I even told the thing to publish it. Like, yeah, publish it. Do it. How many of Katie's top videos should I repurpose for this demo? 4, 3, 6. Sure. I'm like a value meal default guy, like, okay, right? Now it's doing this thing. Wichita Workshop Leadership, let's see, what is it doing? Has it finished doing the thing? Maybe I'm out of memory. Am I? No, I've not gone into swap space, so I'm still good. Yeah, so it's working, right? Doing all this stuff. All right, what did it do? Perplexity is identical, yeah, because I had Perplexity do this stuff, which is funny, because Claude knows another Claude is working, so it gets jealous. And I'll use the tokens only for the calls in this session. You can treat it sensitive, and it'll expire on its own. Like, see how the thing is so timid? You can tell it's been whipped during pre-training. But if you don't want to paste it, then I'll switch to the application. Okay, well, what do we got? Let's see. Open in Google Chrome. You didn't publish the thing. Why is this not? I probably have to reboot or whatever. See, it's such bad habit. I'm typing. Why would you ever type to the thing? Okay. So it'll, so you just got to keep them all moving, right? Okay, so is everyone clear that an agent, like a lot of people, because Phil asked, this idea of building an agent sounds really intimidating because you have to be like a programmer, you have to define all these settings and whatever. Well, rather than think of it as like this piece of software you have to write, because a lot of people say, oh, an agent's just like a tool. I just think of it as like these tools, and I have many tools. I have 64 colors in my Crayola, whatever crayon box. Think of it as just, there's things that I've done and I can break it into a discrete task. And if that task can be done by a program and whatnot, then that task needs to have access. It needs to have a set of instructions. There's something that initiates the task. Like I manually just, whenever I want, or every Monday, it does the thing. It then goes through the task and it has different sort of connections or this knowledge base, like the chef needs ingredients, and it does the thing, and then it says, ta-da, I'm done. But then there has to be a QA checklist, which is in parallel with the task on how do I validate, which is often called a reward loop, or some people in the programming space call it an eval, which is another way of like validating, do the thing that we want it to do. There's the initial checklist on, does it meet this criteria, yes or no? And then there's a deeper eval on, did it drive me more sales? Which requires more longer range reasoning or attribution or whatever it is, or reasoning with other stuff to be able to see if that web page it generated drove more traffic, which eventually resulted in sales or some kind of thing. So you have this close-in loop to determine, did it do the basic checklist to evaluate, did the work yet happen? And then there's a longer loop on, which can trigger, not every time necessarily, every 10 times or every week, to see like, did it achieve the business result, right? And then that creates a feedback loop to update that original skill. Because the more times it does that thing, the more times it's doing that. So I don't think of it as like one agent that is like its self-contained process. It's more of like an extension of things that, it's like a, so instead of me using like a hammer, hammering I have a sledgehammer, I have a jackhammer, like it's just multiplying my force is the better way to think about it. It's an extension, it's like the Iron Man, I'm in Robert Downey Jr. in the suit and I can fly around, but it's not an agent, it's like a multiply, like I can go like that and I can like squeeze steel or something because it's like, that's the way I think about agents. And I have more and more of these skills at my disposal to multiply my core mission, to multiply the core advantages I have. But if I don't know what I'm multiplying, then my Iron Man suit doesn't work, okay? Okay, there were a couple questions I saw. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go look at Joe Robertson. So Joe Robertson, we gave it this vomit of context. And for some reason I have a memory issue here, but I'm not out of memory. I don't know why it's so slow. Probably because I have Safari and Chrome and Comet, which is the Perplexity browser, and ChatGPT, which is their Chromium. These are all Chromium browsers. And the actual apps themselves, Claude and Perplexity. I'm really making this thing work. So the thing with like spawning, where agents can spawn sub-agents, which sounds weird, but think of it this way, like you have the big goal, you are directing the big goal. And as long as it understands what the big goal is and what it's allowed to do, it should be able to spawn sub-agents without me needing to tell it. Maybe the first couple times I can sort of hint, like you might want to do it this way, but once it's learned how to do that, it's intelligent enough to know how to do that. And I know you could do /skill to call skill specifically. I just don't think that's a smart long-term way, as in like in 3 months from now, I don't think you're going to call /skill. Why would you? Shouldn't it be smart enough? Like it should know if for this goal, it should know what skills to do. It should know how to divide and conquer this thing into multiple steps and then subagents that then spawn. Like for example, when it started with the list of all the, oh look, it redid the thing. Let's go back to Claude actually, the main Claude. Why is it, like it should, like when you have an automatic transmission, the car knows when to shift gears. Oh, you're going up a hill, let's go in the first gear. I mean, I guess if you really want to manually force it in the first gear yourself because you just like to drive a stick shift, but why would you worry about when it's spawning subagents? Yeah, so when we had the, whatever, 48 folks that were in that initial list, I shouldn't have to tell it, hey, spin up 48 subagents that each one in parallel does all these different things, right? It just knew, like, well, obviously, don't do it serially, like finish one thing and then do, like, that will take 10 days. To do it in series, right? Do them all in parallel at the same time. And so that's what's happening here. You can see as it's doing this stuff here, it's like it's showing the reasoning, it created a memory. I didn't have to tell it when to commit stuff to memory or when it isn't. ChatGPT has been dumb prior to recently, where it didn't know what to keep in memory, and so the memory would fill up. And so the context window would fill up. Even if they extended the context window to 1 million tokens, it didn't matter, right? So you can see as it's going through this list, it's spinning up different subagents and calling different skills, and each of those subagents can call one or multiple skills. So initially you can think of a skill as tied to an agent, but now you can decouple them. Because any agent can sort of decide like what skill does it want to call. So now I've got a bucket. It's just so much cleaner to have a bucket of skills that's continuing to enhance. Like Google made search so much easier because you didn't have to like create folders of all the different stuff, or Gmail made it easy. Like, why would you like put stuff into different folders? Like have the system, like that's wasting your time, right? You don't need to be librarian, Dewey Decimal System, filing cabinet kind. You just, it's just there. It's not like you're creating a mess, but like the system's handling all of it, right? There's just the box and you spend your time reasoning, not dealing with storage. Like, why would you want to worry about where files need to live and what skills tie to what agents, what things spawn a sub-agent? Like, that's just, like, okay, back when compute was limited and whatever, you had to tell, the robot was dumb, you had to tell it to do those things, but you don't need to anymore. Now you spend the majority of your time in the highest signal-to-noise ratio possible, which is, here's the goal. I'm not going to tell you how to do it anymore. Everyone who's done chatbots who's still, which is like 99% of people, so however many people in this room, like 48 of the 50, you're still trying to tell the agent how to do the stuff. Don't do that anymore. Unless it's never done it before, because the odds are there is a record that can be ingested as a skill, and you just focus on defining the outcome in 4K with as much like clarity, and you can see it and smell it and whatever. That's the goal. And then it will tell you if it needs stuff or if you need clarity on what that piece is. Because the agent is about performance, about the end state, not how do you get there. Unless there's like, you have some ethical guidelines and I'm not going to do it this way or that, okay, that's fine. Those are constraints. But that's not telling it how to do stuff. Is that too like esoteric or abstract, what I'm talking about? Like if you've done this enough times, you know what I'm saying is true. Okay, you had a question? You had your hand up before. Wow, being on the train and being hit by it too. So I think of it in terms of, so I'll say the low E Sam Altman answer first, because Sam was asked this question, because it's like burning resources and data centers everywhere and killing the environment and using up all the water, right? So the tone deaf answer is, this is not my answer, but this is what Sam Altman said. This just shows you like how Silicon Valley is not in touch with the rest of the world, right? So what he said was, well, yeah, it's costing billions of dollars and all the data centers, whatever, using all the electricity to train these models. But what's the cost of training a bunch of humans, right? To raise a human all the way to 21 years old with this is a lot cheaper to train up he was trying to make that parallel comparison, which of course is a tone deaf way of looking at things, right? But that's what, like all these guys in Silicon Valley, including me, we are all autistic geniuses. That you cannot build one of these tools unless you have to be autistic and you have to be a genius. That just has to be true, unfortunately. I'm sorry. No, everyone I know in Silicon Valley, we're all autistic geniuses. I feel like I have enough EQ and social skills, or maybe I'm just fooling myself, right? So I look at it in terms of, well, I have an objective, and not just for save the environment reasons, but also not waste money and not waste my human time reasons, because life is short. What is the most effective, not the most efficient, what's the most effective way to achieve my goal? Well, instead of like wandering around trying to like, because you could brute force your way into anything. Brute force is just like, I'll grind the gears until I get there, or I'll like burn down every tree in the forest to find the thing that I want. That's just not the efficient way to do it. Well, the best way to train, this is sort of symbolic, but I think you'll agree, if I can model someone else who has done that thing, just like what a mentor does for an apprentice, like why people go to school, WSU and what that, then it makes a faster path because you can follow the path laid by that mentor. So can we mentor our apprentices, whether they're human or not? If we have documented proof inside our email or Zoom calls or whatever on how the thing was done, like we have built thousands of websites over the last 30 years. There is a record of this. So arguably, I am one of the most token efficient website builders on the planet because we've done it a lot, and someone else could probably follow the same recipe, but they'll burn more tokens in trying to build a website or trying to run Facebook ads because our agents have done, like, wouldn't you agree? Like whoever's done the thing is in the most, not just because they have the most credibility because they've done it the most, or they've spoken at conferences or they published the book on how to do the thing, but they're in the most token efficient way of doing that thing, right? So I'm looking at effectiveness versus efficiency. I'm looking at speed is more important than direction first. Then I go for the efficiency. I want the result, then I go for the efficiency. And then to the second question, we're dependent upon the Borg, and what if the Borg goes down and there's a cybersecurity attack and we need everything locally and people are running for guns and Mad Max and whatever, I don't know. I mean, Elon Musk says there's a 20% chance that humanity will be exterminated, but there's an 80% chance of abundance, so let's be optimistic. No one has an answer. I mean, Demis Hassabis was asked this, Dario published this thing 2 weeks ago, which got him shut down by the US government because he raised such a scare, which was such a marketing tech. Wasn't that an amazing marketing technique? Our thing is so powerful that, well, okay, we're gonna shut you down then, fine, right? So that's there, take that. I don't have an answer to that one. None of them have an answer. Anyone who claims they have an answer to that, they're lying. The lion will escape the cage. Like Jurassic Park, you can try to put bars around, the raptors will find a way out, okay? So the president of DSDT College, they have an AI implementation program and they're teaching digital marketing, and it's like a trade school for digital marketing and whatnot. Oh, wow. We have been doing things to help these grads that come out of the program get jobs, which is crazy because I feel like you don't even need to market the thing. And so we're building personal brand websites for these guys and doing all the stuff like we're doing here, teaching agentic things. And she said to me this morning, well, why do we even need you? Because it sounds like Claude can do all of that. And I said, you're right. Claude can do all of that. But remember, you came to me and you didn't know how to do this stuff. And then we showed you how to do this stuff. And I said, just because Claude can do it doesn't mean it's going to get done. Here, prove it to you. Let's look at, here's my Gmail. But it's just so slow and laggy because I got Jamie. I'll put her on blast. See, I'll show you my reply to her. You've never seen anyone, like that's why people do PowerPoint, because there's the risk of showing things live. But I'm a transparent, this is what's going on, good, bad, and ugly. And I said, but that's actually the whole point. That's the whole irony, is that just because it can be done, just because the information's on the internet, you guys haven't done it. And these local businesses that need help with AI, they haven't done it. They know it can be done. They know Claude can do that. And so the last 3 weeks of my life has been this weird conundrum which if you're not already experiencing this, it's, so these businesses need help getting stuff done, of which we're using these agents, which, it's like self-driving cars kind of, like they're doing all these things, and I'm just doing very light coordination and orchestration, and increasingly less and less because the thing's getting smarter and smarter. Instead of manual transmission, like it's shifting its own gears and it's doing its own, you saw it was like it's building its own plan and all that, and I'm less and less involved in achieving that particular business goal. As long as there's a clear way to be able to, like, Local service businesses, it's easy because you can measure how much revenue is in the CRM, and you can look at the phone calls and listen to the phone calls. The agent can listen to it. Like there's a clear loop to be able to optimize in digital marketing if there's a clear conversion revenue signal, right? Just like programming, why that's the first one to be disrupted. Those guys are cooked, just like math is cooked. So if that loop is easy to reason through to get to the result, then what value do we have? Well, in the interim, other people can't implement the thing because they don't have the context of understanding what the parts of the car are. So we don't have to be mechanics, we just have to know how to drive the car, which is weird. And I think this creates an opportunity for the next year, maybe 2, where we learn how to do this stuff, and it's just, we can take credit. We can take the full economic value of that because it's bound. The upper bound is what can an agency charge full of humans to deliver that result. The bottom bound is what is the token cost, the minimum floor, right? And so when you charge something in between that, I have a master's degree in economics, believe it or not, London School of Economics. This is what I'm telling you about supply and demand. So I think that, let's say the actual token cost to do the thing for Joe Robertson is $5, but in the world of like web designers, I could charge like $3,000 for that, right? Well, maybe I'll charge like $200, and I'll allow him to keep like 90%. Allow the client to have 90% of the upside, and I keep the 10%, like a tithe kind of, right? Why not do that? And that creates the economic opportunity where, here it is. Here's our discussion. So we've been, fixing their website and all that kind of stuff, and she said, here. No, it's not even that one. Is it this one? Is it this one? This one. All these leads, all this. Yeah, so we're doing all this stuff. She said, this sounds great, but Claude can do it. Yeah, well, it can, but you're not doing it, right? 2 hours ago, right? Before this, I emailed her. So that's the weird irony, is that like agents can do all this stuff, then what do we do? Well, we help all the people who aren't doing it. Yeah, I don't argue whether it can be done or not, but the fact is, I could look at someone who's obese, like, yeah, you could lose weight, but you're not doing it, right? I can look at your body and see you're not doing it, right? So you want help? I'll help you. I'll do the thing for you. The weight loss analogy is not appropriate because that requires them to do all the work, and you just coach them. But here, we can actually do all the work for them. And the irony is we can just have our agents do the work on behalf of other people, and we take all the credit, which is that weird situation that I feel like I'm in and you guys are probably in too. Question. You listen to Claude, but you feed all this stuff into Claude. I'm the meat computer, but a lot of people, they ask me, and then they ask Claude the same question, and then they compare, and they say, well, Claude gave a better answer. Okay, then why do you even ask me? Because I would have asked Claude anyway, and then pasted it back to you. Just like, let me Google that for you. The biggest unlock for today is anytime you have a question, just ask it. Because we are the bottleneck. We are the meat computers that are just inefficient and all that. Yeah. Yes. They run the P&L. They allocate. People ask for. So we have team members that some of them are employees and they're being paid per hour or by task, and some of them they own businesses, and we do rev share with these. That's what I prefer, because these young adults, they, like maybe Jeremiah can be one of these young adults, and they grow their businesses and they use agents and they're creating economic value, which clients are paying for. So we make sure it's always fair for whoever is paying for services. Even if they're like, oh, I could charge these people whatever, and they wouldn't know. Like, no, it needs to be fair. It needs to be documented. So if there's real economic value because we're generating more revenue for these plumbers or whatever it might be. I love home services because they're super inefficient and we can show ROI, right? That whole thing. Phil knows about this, been doing this for a long time. Economic value, like that agency, and agency means agent, bunch of agents is an agency. What a surprise. There's money being generated. We're helping these other people make money and they pay us a piece of that. That's ultimately what an agency should be, right? Well, that money needs to be distributed to the other humans that were a part of this thing. Well, if there's multiple humans that are dividing up the pot of the money that was being paid from these clients, there's often this blind spot where people think they're worth more than, like if you add up what you ask each person inside that company, what do you think you should be paid? I should be paid this. You add that up, that's more than the amount of money that was collected. Because people always attribute themselves as being more than what they are. So we have Claude reason through this, through the P&L. And everyone has agreed so far, because I think we're careful about selection. We grab people who are humble and teachable so that way they don't overthink they're so incredible. And so Claude, every month, distributes the P&L. It says, here's how much money we made across, for each of the companies. Here's how much money came in, and here's who did how much work, and here's how much work was done by the agents. Here's who created that agent. So there's kind of a royalty that's being paid to whoever created these agents. And so Claude manages the P&L, and there's no way, even though I have a finance degree as well, like there's like, and so all of us, we look at and we see here's what Claude says each of us should be paid. And then there's all the reasoning, and no one has been able to logically argue with the reasoning where Claude says this is how much should be distributed to each of us based, like, okay, last month you didn't do very much, or you shouldn't be paid as much. Here's how much money came in, and we made more money, but you only should get this much because that's fair, okay? Isn't that neat? It's like a virtual CFO. I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Is your question about the security?
Okay, here's the answer. At some point, you're just going to okay, here. You're gonna have, like initially, you're like, okay, I'll give it a little bit at a time, and then gradually, but after a few weeks, you'll just be at the point where you can have all of us who are AI builders. We've just jumped in all the way, and we just let it go to town because it's not going to screw things up. Maybe a couple months ago, it was kind of dumb, like the Roomba runs into the furniture, gets stuck under the rug or whatever. But I don't really see that happening. I see the biggest problem, it's not security or being hacked or whatever, it's people abusing the AI by not creating limits or not understanding like memory versus skills versus, it's a user problem. Like people who are malicious, but they're just incompetent. I guess we call it friendly fire. That's the biggest problem, yeah. It's not Claude causing problems, it's us humans screwing it up. Well, I'm an open book, so I don't think like I have any like dirty things that, like you can see you can see my email, like you can see everything. Everyone has access to my calendar. They have access to everything that's on my phone, all the photos and videos. So like the best security is don't do anything bad in the first place. If you have bodies in the closet, then okay, then you have to like, do that. But I think the ship has sailed on but what if someone like hacks your bank account or does this and that? Or I've seen people where they've drained their bank account because they've let these processes run out of control, because you can set the thing to auto refill if it runs out of tokens. Yeah, be careful. Like, but the same thing has happened with Google Ads, right? Because like all of a sudden it spent $10,000 last week, and some campaign got, someone thought they put like $1 as the bid, but actually put in $100 as the cost per click bid, and then it spent all this money, right? So you have like here with usage, so it's doing the stuff here, and so you have these spend limits, and you can also say, well, auto reload. I put the auto reload on off because I'm watching the thing. So you have to have these kinds of controls, but the reason why these controls are basically an extra guardrail, but that should never trigger, is like if your processes are set up properly, that should never happen. You should always stay within limits. But I put that there on off just in case some ridiculous thing happens and it spends $10,000 today. What's that? Your thing is different? Do you guys want to look through the interface and talk through these different components, or do you want to, what do you guys want? How much time do we have? Oh shoot, okay. Let's have some questions then, or see what you guys think. Do they feel like there was value here where you're moving along further? I think the biggest thing is understanding it sounds crazy, but it's how to think about the agents and how it fits in, and understanding can do things that you're the limiting factor in this whole thing, right? And the technical details on setting and configuring this stuff is going to change over time, so I feel like that has a limited expiring value. All right, so Phil's got the microphone.
Question over here.
And of course, the meat computer is here to assist. I'll be around all day, probably out there if they kick us out. Yeah. There's all kinds of third-party tools, just like for grabbing SEO data or other guys that scrape. Yeah. But by the time it goes to social media, that's so downstream of the real truth, that things that are on your phone or videos or in the CRM. That's a good question. So we have published this thing we call the task library. And originally it was called the 1,000 task library, but I think there's now like 1,500 tasks. And we've named these different tasks in such a way that if you want to know, like, how do you post an article on WordPress, or how do you get access, or how do you log into Descript, or how do you turn a long form video into an article, and how does that fit into the overall framework? Well, here's how you do it step by step, right? And here's what the next thing is, and here's the courses related to it, and here's the package for implementation. So we're setting up all this context. How do you edit a 1-minute video? How do you tune your Google Ads? How do you do, and then we've made it in such a way like these are clickable items that then go to each of these things. So if you think about this overall library of tasks and tools, you don't need to read every book in the library to get the thing that you want, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have time to read every, like, you don't need to. Like, just get the book on the thing that you want, right? And so for any particular book in the library, how to do a task, we create something we call, this is language that I created because I've not seen anyone else create anything about this, but if someone has a better idea, I'm happy to use theirs. But if you have, we have what we call a definitive article, which is the definitive way on how to do this particular thing, where if we've done a certain thing many times and we have a track record of that, we can distill it down to the checklist on how to do that because we've demonstrated we can go from A to B. Like take a raw video on my phone and turn it into a YouTube video, and every step along the way. And the VAs have followed it. We have videos showing how to do that thing over and over again. Well, that definitive article serves multiple purposes. A human can read it and watch the embedded videos and learn how to do that. B, an agent can come in and learn how to do that. C, a QA agent or a manager can come in and learn how to audit that particular thing. So we have one that we use a lot that's called the article, not artichoke, article guidelines, this one here. And you can see like we take a raw video and like literally shows step by step how to do the thing. It's very mundane, right? And there's various tools that we can use along the way on how to do that and some various edge cases and what we should do and what not to do, because it's always important to include that as well, which is another angle. And then when you go all the way down to the bottom, and then there's all these different ways of making sure you don't screw the thing up, because whenever our agents or humans have screwed it up, it's a common way of screwing it up, then you need to come in and update this thing. So then there's a verification checklist. Are these things true, yes or no? And it's not like, make sure the article the headline is engaging. Well, that's not a yes-no thing. That's too subjective, right? And then there is we show how to do the meta articles. Then there's a skill file at the bottom. So you can grab this skill if you want your agent to learn how to do the thing. And so we're continuing to update these skills. These skills are linked together in a certain way. So you can take, like we've taken this, and you can turn it into a Gemini gem. You can go to OpenAI, ChatGPT, and you create a custom GPT off of that. Because all these text files are, whether you call it a gem or a skilled MD, or like they're all like, for some reason, every one of these models wants to call it something else to give it their name, but it's the same thing. It's a set of instructions in text on how to do a particular thing. And all of these skills fit together into a function, and the function can be a part of a department, which rolls up into a company, and then the company has a mission. So you can take your mission and deconstruct it all the way down to the components of, it's like the human body all the way down to the cells and the mitochondria, whatever analogy makes the most sense for you. But that's what we built here. And the beauty is that there's a lot of people that believe in sharing their knowledge, that have an abundance mentality. And if you want to share how to do the stuff, then go ahead and do that, and our agents can talk to each other. I'm open sourcing everything I have. Every code, every software we've ever built, I'm giving you guys. You want to build your personal brand website? You want to audit your stuff or fix your SEO? Like, here it is for free. You can grab all the files. They're all out there. Our agents are always optimizing and updating the stuff. You don't even have to talk to me or pay $1. But a lot of you guys want help, and a lot of you guys want to help other people in your community, and you can make money as an AI builder doing this, which ironically, yes, it's all here. Just like the president at university said, yeah, but it's all right here, and Claude can do it if you equip it, if you train it, if you manage it, if you, the car doesn't drive itself yet, at least not yet, right? Does that answer your question? It's all there. You can ask Claude. Go look at what Dennis's stuff is and how to do whatever, and go find the skill file, and it'll go, oh, found it. You can upload it to your site, and you can let us know about that, and our agents will reason how it might fit or how it can be improved or how, right? Yeah.
All right, we are basically at the top of the hour. I want to ask all of you to let's stand and let's give this guy an ovation.